Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode of Back to the City. I'm excited to have my friends Stephanie and Willem back in the studio again today.
We're happy to be here.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
What was it, maybe half a year ago or so, the two of you were here in the run-up to the release of the EP Wet Paint. At that stage, the song SEESAW was in your set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Which is going to be one of 3 songs that you performed in the Minnehaha Recording Company that will feature in today's episode. And then there'll be 2 brand new songs, 1111 and Figured As Much.
True. I figured that they would be.
Whoa.
So how new are those songs?
Very new. Figured As Much we've only played live one time before.
At the Moon Palace show?
Yeah.
The night before you recorded them at the Minnehaha Recording Company.
And then 1111 we've only played live twice before that. So.
Yeah. That will be your new single, is that correct?
When we record it. We
Okay.
just have decided that's our new favorite or whatever.
Well, it's a new favourite of mine. The 2 new songs are excellent, as is SEESAW, which we're going to dive into right now. So let's head back to the Minnehaha Recording Company to witness, before talking about it here, SEESAW by Sass. Welcome back to the Duplex. That was the very wonderful SEESAW, which is the one Sass song, as far as I'm aware, that's been penned by both Willem and Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty more
kind
or
of,
less.
yeah.
Are there other new songs?
Well, Figured As Much Willem came up with,
the ending.
the ending.
Mm.
I had, this, guitar riff idea,
Mm-hmm.
and then he kind of, finished it out and added the very end.
So we will begin and end with Stephanie and Willem's songs then, because that's how we're going to close today's episode.
Totally.
Yeah. When we were talking here, half a year ago or so, we talked about Stephanie's philosophy, XL Dreams, being one way of thinking about Stephanie's philosophy. And there was a Scrabble story
Oh yeah.
behind XL Dreams. What is the Scrabble story, quickly?
I just got this Scrabble letters, XL Dreams, and I was like, that's cute. I like that. I resonate with that.
We used XL Dreams as a lens to think about Sass, but then also the phrase wet paint, which is the title of the EP. So can we have a quick recap on what the image of wet paint meant in terms of that EP?
I mean, it was like my anxious nature of like trying to like define something too soon. And yeah, wet paint, it's the beginning of Sass, so it's like our first coat, so to say. You can look at it that way, and you can also look at it like it's me freaking messing stuff up when it's still wet, you know?
Yeah, and in particular we were talking about like interpersonal relationships and something existing by virtue of not being fully defined.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It struck me as interesting that we have like these two big ideas. The XL Dreams idea of like having a desire and defiantly pushing oneself to do something. But then this, quite different focus on like the wet paint and exploring the grey area and like the virtues and the limitations of that grey area. Let's zoom in on SEESAW. It just strikes me as interesting that it ends with this focus on dreams as well. It's a nightmare to dream, but a dream to pretend to descend. Who's responsible for those lyrics? Is that
That's
Willem?
me, yeah.
Yeah. So how is dreaming featuring in SEESAW?
So it's sort of, Stephanie's the optimist of Sass, and I'm sort of the pessimist, or I guess I just have a tendency to sort of revel in my own depression more than rather like try to climb out.
Yeah.
Especially when I was like writing this song, which was quite a while ago.
I remember you saying that you wrote it after the jam in practice, and then you said you were writing the lyrics on the bus.
Yep.
Can we go back to the genesis of like the initial like Willem component before it became a Sass song with Stephanie having the second verse? How did this song come to be?
Well, I just like played that opening riff at band practice, and Stephanie was like, "Oh, what's that?" Like she'll do sometimes, and we just kind of started jamming on it. Like, okay, this sounds cool. Like Stephanie wrote a really cool melodic guitar part on top of that. So I thought, all right, well, this could be a song. It would be fun for me to like write something here, and I was on the bus just kind of thinking through the melody.
It's a nightmare to dream, I think is such a great lyric.
Yeah, it's...
So is that like dreaming, like to have XL Dreams is a nightmare?
Right, sort of the idea, just like thinking about the future has always been really scary for me. Like, really try to always like shut out those thoughts and like try not to think about the future and not to have like hope.
Because with hope comes fear. Like it's impossible, I think, to experience one of the two without the other, because we hope for something and then we fear it doesn't happen.
Right.
So as long as there's uncertainty about the things, then we'll be bubbling over with fear, which is the opening lyric of the final verse, as well as being optimistic and hopeful. It's scary, it's risky to be optimistic.
I'm learning all about the song right now. I love it.
Did you just write two verses and the "Oh No" chorus, or were there other verses? Did you?
There was those lyrics are all of the lyrics written. There were no scrapped lyrics.
Okay. There was scrapping in the summer garage, but no scrap lyrics.
Right.
And so then enter Stephanie. How was the decision made for Stephanie to take on, first of all, the second verse, and then did you have any advice from Willem as to like what the lyrics should be?
Oh, how did that happen?
So I just wrote the first verse, and I was trying to write a second verse, and I don't know. It's more, writing lyrics is very difficult for me, and it kind of has to come very naturally, the way that these lyrics did, and if I try to force it, it's just not going to happen. So I couldn't really think up a second verse, and I thought, why don't we just have Stephanie do it,
Did you explain what the song needed?
No.
Nope.
In fact, the first verse and the second verse are connected in that they're both sort of just like imagistic and not really. They don't really have a lot of deep meaning.
Like an attempt to discover.
Mm-hmm.
They seem.
You can delve into my subconscious, but I haven't.
Okay, great. Trapped in the summer mirage in verse 1, and then locked in on some shiny veneer. So we're not locked in. Our eyes are locked in, or what's happening in that first?
My verse. Honestly, don't know exactly where the lyrics came from, but I imagine just like sitting on a bench at like a train station.
Yeah.
Like smoke too much weed in the morning. And you're like locked in on some shiny thing on the ground. And then you like look over and you see a cockroach. And there's cobwebs. And I missed the train.
Focusing on the wrong things.
It's just like a little scene painted in my mind. Because the song to me feels kind of like slow and kind of stoner metal-y or something to a degree. And like the first verse seems so random to me too, so I figured that writing some like words that just feel fun to say, focus on imagery, would be fun.
So in the first verse, Willem is randomly squandering a month in the park, and then in the second verse, Stephanie is squandering
her chance to get on the train.
So, yeah, exactly. Squandering an afternoon at the train station. And then what's happening in the chorus, which is like the rendition of the chorus was particularly fierce. And
with the screaming? Yeah. We had performed SEESAW for about 2 months before that screaming section was even a section.
Was there a chorus?
Nope, we just went back and played that riff like instrumentally there. Yeah, and then I was just kind of going over it in my head. I was like on vacation with my family, like at some friend's cottage for Christmas, and just like lying in bed at night. I was sick and like just kind of going over this song in my head, like replaying it, and just kind of came up with these lyrics.
Yeah, which are, oh no, you don't say so, it's been that simple all our lives. Question mark, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who is being addressed?
A random authority trying to give you like a philosophy of life or some kind of meaning.
An overly simple one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say so. Oh, it's been that simple. Why didn't you say so earlier? Mm-hmm. Is the gist of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of not having an answer, but at least one knows one doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, it's kind of apathetic, I feel like.
Yeah.
Just like,
and there's something whimsical about it.
Whimsical, carefree kind of shit. Because didn't you say that the summer garage thing was about like...
Oh yeah, so in like high school, my friends and I would make sort of abstract movies.
Yeah.
Just kind of for fun.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have plots, and there was one scene in one of them, we were just like tinkering around in this like empty garage by like some student housing, like filming a scene in there. And after writing the lyrics, it was like, oh, that's like what it made me think of, you know, like wandering through this dark garage.
The next lyric, of course, is I make my way again in the dark, and I think that's really significant. And the song is really the sound of making our way again in the dark.
Sure, yeah.
I think. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem entirely, it doesn't sound entirely like bleak and nihilistic and lost, but there is just a realism about not having the answers. What do? We scrap in the garage. Mm-hmm. And we know that we don't have the answers. We know that they don't have the answers. And yet here we are.
Yeah. That's nice. That's an optimistic way of looking at your pessimism.
If there were a trajectory to the previous EP, it seems like the starting point is Ragged Strawberry, because it's kind of celebrating a sense of freedom. What were you going to say?
I was going to say it's like reveling in the shittiness.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. How so? How reveling in the shittiness?
Like when it was still fun, before the blindfold was lifted, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like when I don't know what it is, but I don't give a shit, and this is great.
Yeah.
That feeling. Yeah, that was good.
There's a character they seem they seem happy and they seem to be exploring a new sense of power. Is that accurate? Yeah. So what's happening with that character in that song?
I'm doing whatever the fuck I want for the first time in a long time, and like, you know, exploring sexuality and like getting hungover because I'm drinking too much all the time, but like I just keep working super hard anyways. I wrote it when I was like teaching at girls rock camp. I had to get up super early, and I would just like go to shows, stay out super late, do whatever with whoever, and then get up really early and teach kids rock and roll. And I kind of felt like they don't know, like they probably should not be listening to me, but whatever, you know. I just felt kind of good about it. I was just kind of flourishing.
Yeah, and that's in the story of Wet Paint. That's like the beginning of the story.
Yeah, that's the happy part, and then like Wet Paint is like, and then Awful. You know, is that the first song on it? No, that's not the first song on it.
Beeswax.
But Awful would make the most sense to go next. Like that's like the order it was written in, I think. Yeah.
So then there's this. So over the course of that collection of 4 songs, what kind of realization, because each song kind of being a journey of realizing something about oneself, what does this character who has that starting point, what does the character learn over the course of the 4 songs?
Awful is like, you know, oh shit, I kind of want to know what's going on here, but I know if I ask, it's gonna not go well. So it's kind of a panic song. And then XL Dreams is like sort of like settling into what it might be and wondering if the other person is also feeling that way, and like, I don't know, and just thinking about how I'm always like, I'm the opposite of Willem. I'm always like one step ahead of myself. I'm like always, my eyes are on the prize ahead of me, and I never can enjoy what I have.
You're always yearning.
I'm always yearning.
Yeah.
And I that's frustrating, but also it's why I am who I am. It's why I play in many bands and do everything.
Yes, you do.
So I don't want to change it, even though it's difficult. And then Velvet was written when it really the ship had sunk. And besides that relationship ending, like things were not going good with like my job life, like the turf club I was working at, they stopped doing brunches, so I was like making no money, and I was just depressed, and I'd be like, I didn't work till 5 p.m. most days, so I just like lay in bed depressed for like hours in the dark in my room, and that was not good. That's not my MO, you know?
Yeah.
And even while that was happening, like Tony Pichko was about to play the main room for the 2nd time, and like I was gonna go on tour again, and like, you know, good things were happening in my life, but none of it mattered.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I felt hopeless. I didn't have that thing to yearn for. I felt like, you know, I felt like it was all my fault that everything had gone wrong, you know, which isn't true. I mean, I am who I am, but also other people, you know, have reasons for why they are the way that they are. And anyway, so that's the super dark place. But even in that song at the very end, I'm like, I'm all right, because even when I'm in my darkest place, I never give up. I'm always trying to figure out a way to get better. Yeah,
so near the beginning of the song, are you all right? I think so. And then there is this defiant, I'm all right. But a defiant I'm all right, that bears some pain, but also a defiant manner.
I'm trying to convince myself that I am all right.
Yeah.
The whole time, even when I was really, really down and dark and I knew I was in a really messed up place, I was still trying to convince myself I was okay. And I think, I don't know, I mean, I was okay because I got through it.
Yeah.
Pain is just another part of life, you know?
Yeah, and I love how even in the new songs where there is this new self-confidence that's quite different from the Ragged Strawberry self-confidence.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying there is still pain. Of course there's still pain. Like in the human experience, of course there's still pain.
I would say, like, mentality-wise, in Ragged Strawberry, it's kind of like a frivolous strength. Like, yeah, I can flaunt myself all these different directions and whatever. And now, because I went through that super dark period and, like, it took a long time, but, like, I got myself to like a really, really good place. I was happy alone, and I was happy with my job, and happy with how everything was going, and I felt like this new strength.
Yeah.
That was like totally self-reliant.
Yeah. You worked your way through the darkness. You knew that the answers that were being presented by other people were not quite right, but you found your own.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's good.
So we arrive at the point of feeling self-reliant, and therefore at the middle of the episode at 11:11, the song 11:11.
Yeah.
What is the... You have a tattoo that says 11:11.
That's true, I do. Right there.
There it is. I only discovered the concept of 11:11 recently. In fact, it was regarding this version of the show. I contacted a friend who was going to be Jay Mackey, who initially did the video component for the new version of Back to the City. And I messaged him and said, would you like to do this? And he texted back and said 11:11. And I said, what? And he said, you sent the message at 11:11. And I was, yes. And so, and then he had to explain it to me. What would your explanation of the significance of that be?
Well, it's kind of whimsical and childish, and I've been doing it my whole life, but anytime I see the clock on 11:11, you make a wish. And sometimes in my life, I've caught every 11:11 for like days in a row.
Wow.
And I feel like it's there for me. I usually wish for realistic things because as much of a hopeful Excel dreams person I am, I also like to satisfy my hopes and dreams.
Yeah, yeah.
So I tend to set my sights on something realistic. So when I wake an 11:11 wish, it'll be like, I hope to have a good day or something, you know? But sometimes I'll wish for bigger things, which is kind of what this song is about, I guess.
So what Excel dreams are you making at 11:11 in 11:11?
I mean, this is a love song, like a happy love song, which I've like never written, so that was kind of weird. I wish it was like for someone to someday to meet someone who has good music taste, who likes me for who I am, essentially, like truly, and like basically to find love, you know, like, and that's something I almost didn't even dare to wish on 11:11 because, like I said, I want realistic dreams and hopes and wishes, and for a long time I had just, part of my happiness and strength was accepting that that may never happen, and because like I don't like to have that, you know, I don't want to yearn for something I can't have. And even though people would tell me, oh, you'll meet someone, you know, it was like, okay, sure, you know. But now it happened, and I was like, shit.
That's good. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Because we were talking before about being strong, but also about having strong walls and how these things go together. So if one's thinking, well, the way in which I can maintain my strength and my self-reliance is to kind of give up hope and fear about whether or not I'm going to have this meaningful relationship, friendship, connection.
Yeah.
Then trust issues come about because
right.
you need to preserve that strength.
Totally. I feel like, and I'm like relearning a different kind of strength now. So like there's a strength in being alone and being totally happy that way and whatever. And then having a relationship, I was thinking at first, like, oh, am I going to be weak now? Am I going to be, like, reliant on someone? And, like, is it going to soften my ability to, like, deal with myself? But actually, I'm discovering that being with another person is a different kind of dealing with yourself. Like, you have to think about how what you say and do, like, affects another person and, like, understand how to build something with another person. If you want to do it the healthy way, which is absolutely what we're trying to do, you know?
Absolutely.
Be like painfully honest at all times. Just because, you know, there's like this idea that you fall in love with someone and then it's like, that's it, you're done. Like, you're in love now and that's all that matters.
Happy
and
ending.
you just ride off into the sunset. But like, there's so much more. The conversation like is an ever evolving thing. And if you commit to that like level of honesty, it can be difficult, but I think rewarding.
The opening lyric is, so sore this afternoon, did I dive in too soon? It's almost asking, are we back in the wet paint territory?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, where there's this thing that exists by virtue of not being fully defined. But it seems like the song answers.
It does, yeah.
No, we didn't dive in too soon. We're not diving in too soon. I think it would not be too soon to dive into the song now. So let's dive through the green screen to the Minnehaha Recording Company and witness Sass performing 1111. So here we are, back in a duplex. That was a wonderful rendition of 1111. We were talking about songs as a way of working through things.
Totally.
Coming to some kind of self-discovery or some other kind of discovery.
It's always a journey.
Yeah.
And I usually it'll be like, the verses are usually like, here's the problem. And then the chorus is like, this is how I feel about it. And then it's like, it's like a development kind of. And then the second choruses, I'll often have like slight differences in the choruses. Like I usually start in like maybe a darker place and then come to a more optimistic place.
Working your way through the dark.
But sometimes in the last song we're going to talk about, Figured as Much, I actually start in a more like encouraging place and then get to a more like, I hope, or like a little bit more wishy-washy of like, with more fear toward the end kind of.
Yeah, I could sense that. When I was first witnessing it, as you were performing it in the studio, that is the journey I think that we go on.
Which is different.
So,
flip.
Yeah, so watch out. We'll be in a fearful place. We'll leave you in a fearful place at the end. Just as you're lulled into a full sense of security. At the time of the previous interview, or at the time that Wet Paint was about to come out, you were working on new songs.
We have a new record that we're going to put out like in like early September-ish, hopefully.
Does that have a name?
We haven't fully decided.
Okay.
We're thinking about calling it Chew Toy.
Chew Toy, like
which
a
is
dog, like a
song.
dog's chew toy.
Yes.
What is the song Chew Toy about? A dog's chew toy.
It's about being mistreated, and putting in a lot of emotional labor for people. I mean, there's more to it than that too, actually. Because in the last verse of that song, I say, like, I guess I'll hide my body in a sweater. I don't feel that way right now. I've come out of that, but like, when you have been abused, like, you don't feel like your body is your own, and you feel like it matters more how other people feel about it. And I've come out of that, but that song is kind of me recognizing the difficulties of it, because I feel like I always told myself, oh, this like abuse didn't really affect me, like it was uncomfortable and weird, but like, you know, I've come out of it totally scotch-free. And that song is me kind of like owning and realizing that it did fuck me up and it still affects me, and there isn't really much resolve other than the resolve of just owning it and accepting it and screaming it to the sky.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So the truth, like,
yeah,
recognizing that as an aspect of your truth, but that doesn't define.
Yeah. And how someone can be like mean the world to you and be your favorite person, and that doesn't mean that they're good for you just because you like someone.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're good for you just because you love someone. You can love someone and they can still hurt you, and that doesn't mean you don't love them. And the reason we want to make it the title track isn't really necessarily because of what it's about, although I do think it's an important song. One of the heaviest Sass songs for sure.
Yeah.
Is because it also just it turned out really good. The recording sounds good, but it isn't really a single per se.
Where was the recording then?
Oh, we recorded it at the Pearl Recording Studio.
Oh, excellent, yeah.
Yeah, with Zachary Vander.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's my buddy. I met him on Tinder.
Oh.
But we just became friends, and it worked out. Best Tinder story of my life.
The songs on Wet Paint have a family resemblance to one another, at the same time as demonstrating the various different qualities of Sass. Would you say that the songs on the record that you'll put out later this year have a family resemblance? And if so, what are some differences or similarities between the two records?
I think that Wet Paint was like a weak point in my life, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, being very unsure and very down on myself about everything. And the new one has a lot of songs where I know myself.
Yeah.
And I have a lot more strength. 30 Minutes is about like doing sex work and like gender identity issues and how that fluctuates and stuff, and it's kind of sassy and defiant.
Yeah.
And Spoiled by Rotten is about how I don't like it when people lie to me, but I lie to other people because I don't want them to feel sad. And also kind of about how I have a lot of privilege as like a white woman, that I've done things like smoke cigarettes in the bathroom and skip class and shoplift from Target like when I was a teenager, and I never had any consequences for that stuff, and there's no way that I could not see that that's because I'm white.
Yeah. You wrote Spoiled by Rotten when you were spending 2 weeks last April in Denver and New Orleans.
It's true.
You were saying before that it seemed like, well, we were wondering whether being in this different context, we were talking about traveling, that you wanted to travel more, that one of your XL dreams is to, get a large vehicle and go traveling and touring. And, of course, you have been touring, but the presence of yourself in these new songs differs. You were saying there's more kind of confidence. And it seems to be informed by kind of breaking out of a certain context too. Like, for example, that trip to Denver. Is that the case?
Totally. I mean, and like the bridge to that song is, I say like, something is better than nothing and someone is better than nothing. And that's just like, anything is better than wallowing in your own negativity. So like, I'm happy to just do whatever. And like, it sometimes when I sing it, I feel like something good about it, and sometimes I'm like, God, something is better than nothing. And I think that's more how I felt in the moment. But like looking back on that trip, I mean, it was a really fun trip, you know? But it was also just like something to do, something to distract myself.
But you find yourself writing a song that explores your privilege.
That too. I don't want to like put anyone on blast, but someone I'm close to got in some legal trouble. And I was like, it made me think about how like, it's not like I'm any better or worse than this person, that I've done any more or less illegal or bad stuff per se. Not that I've done I haven't done anything that bad, don't come after me, cops. But but like I've gotten away with everything that I've ever done wrong pretty much, you know? And there's reasons for that. And it's privilege, you know?
Yeah. And so you're and was that liberating to find yourself writing a song about that?
I mean, I wouldn't call it liberating per se. I mean, it is what it is. I just thought of the lyrics spoiled by rotten things I'd forgotten, and I was like, oh, that's cool, I gotta use that shit. So then I sat down. So that's kind of weird. That lyric came, then the guitar riff came, and I like worked it all into it.
Oh, so the other way around to how it normally
slightly
goes.
Different, yeah. It was all happening the same like 30 minutes. It took me like 30 minutes to write that song.
Yeah. And there's an interesting affinity with so there's a line in the song 30 minutes about the car can only be parked for 30 minutes. And can we get away with it? Which there's an interesting kind of affinity. Can we get away with this thing?
So in Praying to God, the last song on the album, I say, now I dream of the highway I've been drawn to, because like for a long time I was like, all my problems will be solved when I hit the road and I leave the city. Like, I grew up in Minneapolis, and I'm like, sometimes I feel really trapped here. You know, when I'm traveling, when I'm on the road for a tour or whatever, I feel the most like true version of myself or whatever. Yeah,
it strikes me as interesting that one thing that one might do if one's learning to be fine alone is learn to paint.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's interesting, rather than like waiting for the wet paint of an undefined interpersonal relationship to dry and discover what there is. You're just going to be alone painting.
That was super literal, because when we were on tour, I was in super single, super happy with myself kind of mode. I was like, I can't wait, this year I'm going to learn to dance. And I'm going to make clothes, and I'm going to learn to play pool, or whatever.
As a strong person, these are all the things that I will set as Excel dreams and then achieve.
Right, exactly. Like, that was like what I would focus on,
And if I feel like a kind of vacation back to the ragged strawberry self, then I can kiss every white-eyed girl I know in the lyric too.
Totally, exactly.
Now that's something I could return to without the risk of it kind of crumbling, because it's something I could just choose to go back to.
Because in Ragged Strawberry it was kind of like a fragile, like faux sense of strength.
Yeah.
Where I was like flaunting my freedom, but like didn't really know what it meant and didn't really have like a strong self-esteem to back it.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like, I don't know, I know what I want, and I know that I can do that, and it's not gonna like fuck me up or like be like, what is this,
Yeah. There's always been this interesting thinking about thinking, and now knowing about different types of knowing in the Sass songs. So back in Awful, I don't want to think about what we are was like an important lyric, but then that was kind of counteracted by, it feels like this can't be stable, I'd give it a name if I were able, like this desire to name and to know what something is.
Yeah.
And so it's playing with this, do I want to know this, and what does knowing this mean, and how does knowing this change things, seems to be a recurring thing. And that this episode, spoiler alert, will end with, I know we'll figure it out. I always figured as much. That's the closing lyrics. To figure as much.
I'm a little thinker.
You're a knower. You know.
I guess I'm
Actually, I wrote those lyrics.
You wrote those lyrics? Oh, you're a knower too. What do you think is happening in Figured as Much?
Well, so we had played that song, and Stephanie had this kind of idea for a bridge. Like, she is like, oh, here's this guitar part.
Yeah.
I think we'll do this. And I don't know, we weren't really coming up with anything that solid in band practice, and so I was like, all right, I'll go home and I'll try and see if I can like figure out some way to end this song. And then I was like, lying in bed that night. Like I couldn't sleep for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so I'm just like playing the song over and over in my mind because it's this new kind of exciting song. And so yeah, I just came up with a way to end it. And I knew it was called "Figured as Much."
Yeah.
But those lyrics weren't in the song. And what are the like? Do you say like we're gonna figure it out or something in the chorus?
I said I know you'll figure it out in the first one, and then I said I hope you'll figure it out in the second one.
Right. So I'm just kind of taking that what's like what she said.
Do you even know the lyrics to this song?
No.
Okay.
And then just throwing in the title, like.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I know we'll figure it out, and the two of you are singing by that point.
It's actually perfect. Like he didn't know that it was perfect, but it is.
Why is it perfect?
I wasn't gonna say this, but I'm just gonna say it's kind of about you, but also kind of about me, but also could be applied to anyone.
Yeah.
But like you were like the initial inspiration for the song, but it's just kind of about like going through personal growth.
Yes.
And how like part of that is acknowledging your own shittiness toward yourself, but also you have to forgive yourself for your shittiness toward yourself. And like so it's like I'm like talking to myself, but also thinking, imagining in my brain what you might have been going through, and then at the end of the song you're like, we'll figure it out. I'm like, here we are singing about how we're going to figure it out.
Then let's return of course to the Minnehaha Recording Company one final time for Sass's performance of Figured as Much.
figure it out in post.
Yeah,
exactly. Sadly, often the case, one significant other can impede one's flourishing.
Right.
And so that's a fear.
But Theo,
Okay,
they don't do that shit. They're not like that at all.
I can edit the name if you want.
Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't really matter. Me and my mom were talking last night about sexual terms that we don't know what they are. And she was like, one time I heard someone in a bar call someone else a muff muncher, and I didn't know what that was for a decade. And she was like, that's what that was.
I think that is a nice, surprising final note. All of these like intense, like emotional journeys and discoveries, and then the discovery of what a muff muncher is the
One day
final,
we'll all know.
is the culmination of our journey today.